All right, Bombers. So me and Henry were sitting on the couch today, and we were working on a couple things and watching some videos from our highlights and trying to think about a couple different ways we can get better. One of the things that we started coming up with was about getting our fingers to that four-seam grip. Now, at this age level, hands are still a little bit small. We're not quite able to get the ball rotated as well as we want to. But I was telling Henry that when I was younger, I could feel my fingers be able to get to that four-seam grip anytime my hand went into the glove to go get the baseball, right? And it kind of became a little bit of a challenge where we started tossing the baseball back and forth to see if we could do it. And so we're going to show you that. But before we get to that, let me make sure we know what a four-seam grip is. So when we grab the baseball, we want to end up grabbing it with our fingers across the horseshoe. If we don't remember what the horseshoe is, this is what the horseshoe of the baseball is. There's four of them. Here's one. There's another one here upside down. Here's another one. Here's the third one, and then finally the last one. Now we want to lay our fingers across the horseshoe with our fingertips on the seams of the baseball to give us the best grip that we can possibly have. And so when we drive that baseball off our fingertips, we can really grip and drive that baseball and be able to rip that baseball down to create as much backspin as possible. Now, why do we want to have four seams? Do you remember why?
We want to have a four seam grip so that way we could get that hand on the ball and then grip down and
What's it going to
create
make the
that
baseball
spin
do?
on the ball to like drive really hard.
And if we throw that four
Down.
seam grip, it should give us the straightest baseball that has the highest amount of elevation. Now, how does that end up happening? I'm into aviation, so I really like this comparison as an air traffic controller. Is we want to think this baseball almost like the wing of an airplane. How does an airplane fly? Well, we create high pressure on the bottom of the wing and low pressure on top of the wing to be able to make the wings lift. We can do that same thing with the baseball. When we rip and we make the seams turn this way, and we're going into the wind this direction, the seams pushing against the wind here, well, in this direction, create high pressure because it's pushing against the wind, versus the top seams that's going with the wind that's heading this way as the ball travels. The seams going with the wind kind of push the wind in that same direction that the wind is already wanting to go by the baseball's flight of path, and that allows for low pressure. So that creates a little bit of high pressure on the bottom of the baseball, a little bit of low pressure on the top of the baseball, and allows that baseball to stay a little bit more true and a little more on top. Now, if we end up throwing, let's say, like a two seam or something along those lines, where we get that kind of same spin action, we can kind of create some pressures on the sides of the baseball, and it could cause that baseball to have a little bit of an arc to it. So that's why we try to get for that four seam grip. So again, we want to lay our fingers across that horseshoe there. And what the challenge was when we were sitting inside, if we can toss the baseball to us, be able to catch it, and from the time we take our hand back to our other hand, be able to reach and get that four seam grip ready for our throw. Now, we can't use our left hand because typically we're going to have a glove on this hand, and you're not going to be able to rotate the ball inside your glove. So it's going to be solely your throwing hand. Let me change the camera here, and we'll show you what that looks like. So here's what me and Henry were doing in the living room, and this is something you can do on your own, whether you just toss the baseball up and you catch it yourself, or if you have a partner where you can toss it back and forth to each other. It's just simply catching the baseball and then coming up and looking whether or not, by the time you're here to ready to throw the baseball, did you get your fingers to a four-seam grip. Now, again, as we're still younger and our hands are a little bit smaller, it's going to be a little bit hard for you to still rotate this baseball in your hand. Where here I can just be able to rotate it using my thumb and my fingers, and that's going to be a little bit more difficult, but start working on it now, so as you get older, you'll really be able to perfect grabbing that baseball, feeling the seams, and immediately put your fingers right to that four seam grip across that horseshoe. Give it a couple more. Let's see if I can get it here quick. There's four seam. How'd you do? Had to readjust?
Yeah.
There's four seam. The other thing I had to remind Henry too here, because there was a couple times where I was like, oh, I didn't get it, I got a two seam. And that's fine. Hey, I haven't played baseball in about 20 years or so, and so I don't get that work of, this is not something that I've worked on in a really long time, but that muscle memory was able to come back a little bit, where I was able to come back and get that ball right to where I want that to be on that four seam grip.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for watching.